Content over everything.
Were you here for the whole protest today?
Yeah, we were.
Awesome.
We were drumming in the march.
Oh, you was the drummers? Okay, yeah, we saw you guys. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was good. It was powerful.
It was soft. It was too soft.
Do you think it was too soft?
Compared to the Gilets jaunes, what's happening in France at the moment? Massive movement. It's in the 9th week now, and it's massive revolutionary movement that's happening all over France. The sheer difference where we just come and make a little bit of noise, and it's a normal traditional left. We're not doing enough stuff to really shut down enough of London. Really, in France at the moment today, the objective is go and smash up banks. Go into the banks and shut things down, make that much of a noise, instead of just like say a few words, get into some organizations and show, look, we're doing something. It's like to the point of real rebellion. Yeah. But at the end of this protest, we kind of just walk away and it eases off. Why don't they get us and we go block all the traffic and we block the streets and we really shut things down? We really take media attention. We really say we make a point. We really get a lot of people to come next week and then we continue it. Why is it not to that point?
Are you planning to come again next week? Because like you say,
if there's more happening next week.
If there's more happening, yeah. Because like you say, the Yellow Vest protest has been going on for 9 weeks since September it started, and like you say, they are literally locking off roads. Like for over weeks, periods of weeks,
motorways, the schools, and the banks, the supermarkets, the factories, everything is being closed down, boycotted. It's massive, but it's completely whitewashed from mainstream media. They're completely keeping us in the dark. Why is that exactly?
Why do you think the UK version was so timid then?
Say it again.
Why do you think the UK version was so timid in response?
I'm battling with this idea because we've got exactly the same groundwork of a whole lot of issues that are very close to heart. Everything they were talking about today was fantastic. They talked about it to the extent that we did. But our issues are just as bad, if not even more extensive to what's going in France. And we should be responding with a whole lot of justice, a whole lot of passion for justice, sorry. The appropriate response to huge injustice is rage, not necessarily violent rage, but really making a noise. Really, we're going to stop this. Really, we're going to be doing what's necessary. Instead of we're going to say some words and make some noise.
Something to say on this part, because I saw like you were trying to get the two people to come together, the far right and the far left to come together. And
super nice.
What works well in France is that the far left and the far right are both actively on the streets together in the protest. How do you think that could
mixed in? Yeah, I mean, I couldn't live with that. As hopefully you saw from the interview, like I'll be honest, we probably disagree a bit as well. I'm non-violent direct action, so I wouldn't be personally smashing banks up, going in. Yes. I think it's actually just going to polarise the situation. And unfortunately, these guys smashing in the fascists coming in at the end, it's probably going to get more attention than what the protest was actually about. And as demonstrated in that conversation, you know, there's division and ignorance and confusion around things that are the same causes but causing very different responses. So it's a challenge.
Can you get through that sort of ignorance then? Is there any way to get through that here in the UK? Because in France, somehow they managed to do it, or they managed to coordinate their protests. Or do you think that's
enough that it's directly causing political change? You know?
Yeah.
Reversing certain policies and everything. They're directly responding to it in France because they're making enough of a noise and it's going on for long enough. Here we're making a little bit of noise for the day, but it's not leading to enough direct change, and they are actually achieving that in France, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Certainly in my lifetime I've never seen a movement that's been going on for so long, so close to home, that is revolutionary to such an extent. And that's exactly what it is. I don't understand why we're being so soft here, because there is far too much change that needs to happen, far too much suffering that is going on here at the moment, and it's outrageous, and we're allowing it to happen still. They're not allowing it to happen to them.
Do you think the aggression that you have there in France is needed to sustain it and keep people coming out day after day? Because I can see even today, coming towards the end of it, there's quite a few protesters who are definitely ready to go home, and you don't necessarily think they're going to come back out tomorrow or the next day or the next day.
Exactly. So we've done our thing now, you know, let's go back home and have a cup of tea. Instead of, we are absolutely committed to this, and we're going to be keeping it up and keeping it going and keep spreading the movement and doing controversial things and pushing the boundaries until the changes are beginning to be made. So I don't agree with aggression whatsoever. I really hate the level of violence that's going on. If you're going to go and smash up some banks, you're definitely not hurting anyone inside the bank. You just know it's a gigantic conglomerate that can afford to lose a couple of its chain stores. But you're making the noise. You're just not actually causing anyone any
I suppose I'm trying to get the level up and just being aware of, certainly the mainstream press, you know, they only need to grab onto the fact that 10 people have been killed in Paris, and suddenly the whole of the UK is like, oh fucking hell, all the yellow vests are right wing, Tommy Robinson, axe wielding, you know.
Yeah,
what's
so
the word?
angry,
angry and wanting to smash stuff flawlessly.
Yes.
So
it's not angry and wanting to smash stuff just because you can. It's because we really need to make system change, and that really takes a lot of fire in your belly. And we all got to have the fire in the belly together, you know. And that's what we're needing here. I really think.
I think Brexit is not helpful because it's polarising in different directions to the austerity problem in the UK and more broadly. So in France, Macron is came to power under this lovely, comfy, neoliberal, mid-centrist idea, and he managed to just about unify people against Macron, against Le Pen. But in the UK, we've got this division, in a different way. So I think it's really not. It's not a simple problem to solve. At the same time, I think I'm personally more focused on the bigger issues, which is humanity as a collective. Whenever the doomsday is, whether it's in 100 years, 1,000 years, whatever, at some point we're going to have to come to terms with the finite resources that we have, and we're going to have to get radically better at sharing it. So that's more my priority. Personally, that's my priority. And this, any sort of division like this, whether it be elitism and wealth distribution, or whether it be xenophobia, they're all working against that long-term fundamental need for collaboration and working together. It's a bit like a tribe being stuck, in some part. I like to go back 300,000 years or whatever, and imagine a tribe that was resource limited, strictly resource limited, and really had no chance of survival unless it worked together. And that's where our altruism comes from, fundamentally. That's why we have that real need to see someone in pain. We're like, we really need to band together. And that actually needs to happen on a global scale, because now that resource limited small space of tribe is the whole world.
It's the us and them psychology, very deeply embedded into how we function. We need to stop seeing us and them just beyond some borders. Maybe a them can be like off the planet or something if really necessary, but we're all together, we're all humans, and now we're all on the same boat. And that same boat is now a globalized system that is operating with the same amount of resources that we need to spread. In that kind of sense, we keep fighting each other, we're just gonna sink the boat.
So here's a question for you guys. I mean, the top 1%, who I believe you guys are the elites, who you guys have united to protest against, seem very determined not to lose their elite position. And like you say, many of these elites control media, so they can control the narrative, and they can actually create divisions within these groups. Do you think it's actually realistic or possible that you guys could achieve what you want whilst you have a 1% that's so powerful and can actually create divisions between people so easily?
These are the enemy that I see, and that's the thing I wanted to ask Amy, is you see the problem as refugees and migrants. I see them as just a symptom of the combined enemy that we both have, but that she has been completely distracted from. The issues that she is completely seeing, Brexit and refugees, I think they are a distraction, a scapegoat from the main problem, which is the primary cause of all this, and it is an elitist sickness of a system that means all of the money is going up to a single point, and those people selfishly want to take it all for themselves and leave the rest of us to rack and ruin.
How do you get that message through to the right?
Yeah,
on the right?
that is the question.
Well, but discussions like that, I hope.
Better.
Maybe like a bit more. When you got a group or circle of people around one person, they're gonna harden, and it's quite difficult to sort of have those compassionate conversations. But to answer your question about, convincing the elite to allow more equal change and allow revolution. I mean, it's not like it hasn't happened in the past, right? Revolution is throughout history.
Yeah, it's happened again and again and again, and it is necessary again now.
Some people would say that it necessitates a degree of violence.
I think the power of collectivism can overcome the need for violence. I mean, if enough people come together, you won't need violence. Because if everyone was being violent and loads of people were involved, we'd just destroy our community.
You want to make this a thing of violence? Because look how many of us there are, and look how many of you there are. So we need to get it to that point. I think a key to that is getting police and military on our sides. Because then you take away any source of need for violence, because they don't have a violent force. So we don't need to try to respond with a violent force. We just stand up and topple them off, and then say, okay, all of this is just invented and got to a ridiculous point. Your entire financial system is based on nothing but a little bit of data on a computer screen, but you've blown it up as this ridiculously massive balloon now. It's like you just pop it and just start it again, you know? It's just ridiculous, it's laughable now. But it's so much sickness. There's so much sickness and so much suffering for far too many people.
Any final points?
We need to let it go.
Any final points?
Just what do we need in this country to be turning a protest like what we saw today into it's actually direct actions happening for weeks on ends, and it's happening across the board, and we're shutting down institutions. It's general strike. It's general election. How do we get to that?
Strikes, boycott, divestment. You talk about the elite, you know, there are plenty of that 1% or 6%.
Really
I'm sure I have, like, you know, some friends who would be normally in that however you want to split it up. It's not like, again, that's even us and them. You know, to even start talking about the elite as like a somehow separate group who's like sitting at the top of these flats in Whitehall, like, actually that's a bit of a delusion as well. Like, some of them are friends, some of them are relatives, some of them are, you know, connected by a few people. So it's to start getting that message through and getting, you know, I'm thinking about the bigger sustainability challenges, certainly. I mean, all this party political stuff, to me, is just a distraction. You know, we need it first to get to the later place. But to start getting those conversations through, I mean, you know, going to universities, getting big hedge funds or big investment funds to divest in the companies and the structures that allow the proliferation of that sort of gradient. Yeah.
I think mainstream media is just the last point. Mainstream media, there are a whole load of muppets, and it's a huge amount of disinformation. The fact that nobody knows about what is actually happening right next door to us in France, that is 9 weeks of full revolutionary action. That huge amount is happening there, and they've had a huge amount of impact on direct government policy and how they're responding to that. The sheer amount of violence that is occurring, that just how disgustingly aggressive the police are in every single you can't go and join one of these protests without an absolute assurity. You will be tear gassed, you will be charged at by the police, you will have a lot of people getting beaten up on the street. I was there last week in Lyon in France. I saw it. I've never experienced something like this. It was pitch battle warfare on the streets, you know. And we don't know about it. It's not being reported. The complete image of it is totally being twisted, and it's very purposeful. Now that is very confusing and very worrying and very sick, because it's complete inappropriate, completely corrupted spreading of the truth of what is happening on our planet. And when you're at that point, you're a complete sickness. So I think these kind of protests, we started off at the BBC today. But I think we need to be ending at all of the major outlets of media and directly saying it to them, because they're just muppets of an overall elitist system, which is the larger sickness and the large oppression, and they're the spokesperson for them. They're the reality, the brainwashers of them. The propaganda machines of them is absolutely how I see it now.
100%.
We need to be directing at them, so we get the truth out there and we're actually getting people together again.
Right.
So good on you for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for sure. Content Over Everything is a channel, or COE, and I'll get you guys to repeat this after me if I can.
Yes.
We don't listen to BBC, we don't watch ITV, just tune into COE.
We don't listen to BBC, we don't listen to ITV, just tuning into COE.
I'm alright.
Yeah, big love.
COE.
COE.
What's it stand for?
Content Over Everything.
Content of everything.
Yeah,
it's
content over everything.
It's in YouTube, yeah?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thanks,
but
guys.
that's
It's been good
thank
talking
you
to you guys
guys.
as well,
Yeah,
definitely,
it's
man.
been hard.
Definitely. I'll get in for sure, bro. Take it easy, man. Nice talking to you guys. Good
Content over everything. Content over everything. From your belly.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
We're really concerned about the environment, so what we're going to do is we're going to up the price of fuel to reduce the amount of fuel that's used by the French people. They didn't take into consideration that upping the price of fuel only affects poor people. So rich people can carry on polluting as much as they like, but the poor people can't even get the essentials.